Hey guys, ThePerfectG here bringing you part 1 of the Solo Olm guide. I'm breaking this down into a few parts for a couple reasons. For starters, I want to be able to cover the most ideal methods and show how easy it can be done to get into them. I like to make everything as clear and concise as possible, but there's a lot you need to know to Solo Olm, so let's get right into it. If you find any use in this guide, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to be notified of part 2 of the Solo Olm guide. In my opinion, mage running is the most important part to soloing Olm. Once you get Mage Running down, you can pretty much just power through the Ohm like you would in a team raid. The only issue doing that is how many brews you have to eat, and when the portals happen, you could be flung across the room. But even if that happens, you could still out-eat the damage and struggle through to victory. But a couple general tips for people looking to solo Ohm. First, make sure your staff is not on long range. You need to allow the staff to be able to drag you closer when you can't reach the mage hand. And second, if you know any experienced raiders, consider asking them to take you on a duo so you can practice mage running after you try it. It may be easier for some people to pick up on the timing if they have another player to match up and sync with. I'm more than happy myself to run duos with people from time to time if they want to practice, so I'll leave an invite to my Discord in the description below so you can send me a DM. Mage running is a method also known as 3 to 0. 3 to 0 means you're doing 3 hits to Ohm and Ohm is hitting you 0 times. That means when done correctly, you won't take any damage for about half of the total Ohm fight. There are a few different types of mage running, but two of them are used and equally worth learning. Throughout this video, we'll be going over both the standard 3 to 0 and the one tick after 3 to 0 method. We'll also be covering what happens when your staff noodles and different ways to conserve run energy when mage running. Here's an outline of the tiles we'll be using. Tile 1 and 2 are the normal tiles you would use in a team raid to run the head. Tile 3 is the thumb tile, and tile 4 is the border to the right side of Ohm, often referred to as the ring finger, melee side in teams. Those 4 tiles are the areas for the standard 3 to 0 method that we'll go over first. Tiles 5 and 6 are two tiles that will be used for setting up the one tick after 3 to 0 method, which is extremely useful to set up for P2 and P3 or in case you make a mistake during Ohm. These 6 tiles will be the general areas that you may be attacking from, so I'll be using these numbered tiles as reference throughout the guide. There are several ways to start Ohm, but when you're learning how to mage run, the best way is to focus fully on mage running. You can save your hammer specs for after the mage hand dies as you get more comfortable, but I'll be covering how to hammer efficiently in part 2. For now, just make sure to learn the timing for mage running, as this will help you learn the timing for 4 to 1 later. As you enter into the Ohm room, put on Protect from Range and Augury. Then when you see which side Ohm spawns on, stand on tile 4. Immediately when you click to move there, hover your mouse over the mage hand, and as soon as you see an option to attack, click it and then click tile 1 to move there. If you do this correctly, you won't take any damage. However, if you do tank a hit on the way to tile 1, that just means you're late, so do a second attack from tile 1 and then continue mage running as normal. However, there are two things that can happen after you reach tile 1. If you did damage to the hand, the head will turn left and you can mage run as normal. But if you didn't do any damage, just stay on tile 1 and continue hitting the hand. The head will eventually turn left and then you can continue mage running as normal. Once the head does turn left, move to tile 3, attack the hand, and then move to tile 4 and repeat. This is what it'll look like when doing this on phase 1 of Ohm. Attack on tiles 4, 1, 3, repeat. A good perspective to help learning the timing is to think about running the head in a team raid. Normally you move between tiles 1 and 2 when you see Ohm turn his head, but notice how when running the head you react to the head turning? When you mage run, you don't react to the head turn, you predict it. This means you're attacking at the same time Ohm turns his head, or one tick earlier than you would normally when you react to its turning. This is pretty much the gist of standard 3 to 0 mage running, but phase 1 does work a little differently than the others. We'll get into how to start phase 2 and 3, but first there are some things you have to look out for when mage running. When you're on tile 4 and you click to attack the hand, you have to immediately click on tile 1 to move there, or you'll end up being late. This is because you're attacking from the outside of your staff's max range, so you're being pulled into it while you attack. And then when you reach tile 1, you have to immediately attack before moving, or else you'll end up being a tick late. Once you have that timing, the rest will flow smoothly. But remember when I said there was another method called one tick after 3 to 0. If you ever are a tick late, you can do this method instead. And it's also the best way to start phase 2 and 3 of Ohm. However, see here on phase 1 of Ohm, when you start on tile 4, Ohm's head sort of whiplashes to the side. That's because on phase 1, he looks at whichever side has the most people first instead of the middle, which means if you were to start on tile 4 on any other phase so you could do the standard 3 to 0 method, you would have to wait 4 ticks before your initial attack so you can give Ohm time to turn his head. Doing that on phase 2 would look something like this. It isn't a method I would recommend once you're more comfortable soloing, but some people prefer this method because it might feel more consistent with the method for phase 1 because you're able to immediately get into the standard 3 to 0 cycle. And if you choose to do this method for P2 and P3 instead of what I'm about to show you, that's totally fine. But stay tuned for one tick after 3 to 0 in case you're ever late doing the standard 3 to 0 method. Mistakes definitely happen. The best ways to start phase 2 and 3 is a bit different than normal. You'll start off by standing on tile 5 and hover your mouse over the mage hand again. As soon as you see an option to attack, click the hand and move to tile 6. When you reach tile 6, immediately click to attack the hand again and click tile 1. Because of your weapon's drag, you'll still be able to make it to tile 1 without taking any damage. This method also gives you 2 chances to do damage to the hand instead of 1, which will force the head to turn left if you hit. And then similarly to the standard 3-0, you'll attack on tile 1, then on tile 3, but instead of attacking on tile 4, you'll attack from tile 6. It should look something like this. Attack from 6, 1, 3, and repeat. Once you get both of these methods down, you'll be well on your way to being able to solo. Advanced section. Now, there are some issues that you may come across, though, that I'd like to go over with some common solves. One of those issues is run energy. The simplest fix is to bring extra stamina into Ohm, and I would recommend actually bringing 2 full staminas, but some people choose to bring 3 or even 4 just in case, especially with lower agility levels. Both are fine. However, there are advanced ways to do the 3 to 0 methods that allow you to conserve a massive amount of run that we'll go over in a moment. But the other main issue that you'll run into is when you hit zeros consecutively, also known as noodling, which I'll showcase first. Now, I mentioned earlier that when you start the phase, if your first hit misses, to stay on tile 1 until the head turns left eventually. The reason you have to hit the hand and wait on tile 1 is because the head turned to the middle due to your staff's noodling. And because Ohm can't use any unique auto attacks during the first cycle, you can't get a flame wall or an acid trail. And this is the same issue that will occur when you're doing the standard 3 to 0 method. When your hit coming from tile 4 maybe is 0, and that'll most likely cause the head to go to the middle instead of the left as normal. Now you can fix this the same way by staying on tile 1 and waiting for the head to turn eventually. This is a terrible idea though because it'll be random where you are in the cycle. I mean, you could get portals thrown at you or you could get stuck in a flame wall. The best solve for this is when your staff hits 0 coming from tile 4, you'll notice that you don't get an XP drop. If you're on time to notice this during the standard 3 to 0, you can hit like normal on tile 1, but instead of running to the right on tile 3, you run all the way left to the mage side and then run back to the right side hitting again on tile 3 and continue as normal. This is actually the safest way to stay in cycle when you noodle without taking any damage. But you are able to get a total of 2 extra hits if you're willing to take 1 random hit from Ohm. So during the standard 3 to 0, when you noodle coming from tile 4, you'll run to tile 1, attack the hand like normal, but then run to the mage side, attack the hand again, and then begin to run back to the right. When your character gets close to the absolute middle of the room between tiles 1 and 2, attack for the third time and tank a hit. Then continue the standard 3 to 0 mage running as normal. The reason we move all the way between tiles 1 and 2 specifically is because the head is facing all the way to the left. This area between these 2 tiles is the invisible wall of Ohm's peripheral vision, so any flame walls that get shot will be nulled instead. Keep in mind, however, when you're doing the 1 tick after 3 to 0 method, you can only just barely get the attack off on tile 1, and sometimes you may have to go to the mage side to do your 1 attack. Because of this, there's an even better way to handle the noodles for both methods. When you reach tile 1, hit the hand, and then run to the right, but instead of stopping on thumb, attack from the tiles between 4 and 5. This will cause a little bit of drag, but you can make it back to tile 4 in time to continue the cycle. The reason we run all the way there is to prevent flame walls. Just like before how we ran between tiles 1 and 2, we'll be on the edge of Ohm's peripheral vision between tiles 4 and 5 when the head is facing middle. I would suggest practicing this even when it's not flame phase, that way you can be ready for it. If you happen to get crystals underneath your feet when you tank that hit, you'll be able to easily tell if you timed it correctly based on where those crystals showed up. When soloing Ohm, sometimes you may notice after you attack on tile 4, you do 0 damage but the head turns left anyway. You'll know he's going to turn left by how fast he swings his head from the right, so you can catch this in time and make it back to tile 3 to attack. Most of the time, this will occur when doing the 1 tick after 3 to 0 method. Because you're attacking 1 tick later in the cycle, O may use that damage from tile 5 or tile 6 to decide whether or not he turns his head left or to the middle. Being able to catch things like which way the head turns will help save a lot of run energy, but not nearly as much as being able to walk during 3 to 0. As you can see here in the clip, I'm mage running, but I'm pathing my character one tile at a time in most cases. This allows me to conserve nearly half of the run energy used when mage running. What you're seeing now is the standard 3 to 0, attack from tile 4. When I reach tile 1 and attack, I click tile 2 to move 2 tiles, and then 1 tile at a time until I reach tile 3. And then I attack on tile 3, and then I walk 1 tile at a time until I reach tile 4, and then repeat. Now, it isn't necessary, but some would say that this helps them maintain the timing for Ohm Special with high ping, and it's also a massive benefit being able to drop a whole stamina potion because you don't need it once you learn this method. However, it can get a bit trickier during the 1 tick after 3 to 0 method, which I'll show here. Normally, you would attack on tile 6, then 1, and then 3, and you would just repeat that. But how can we do this and still save run energy? When you start on phase 2 of tile 5, you can attack, and then instead of running to tile 6, walk 1 tile at a time to tile 4. And then instead of attacking, walk 1 tile inwards closer to Ohm's head between tiles 4 and 5, and then click attack. You'll attack and run to tile 1 just like normal, but instead of attacking on tile 1, when you reach it, you'll immediately click on tile 2, and then you'll attack. And then you'll walk 1 tile at a time until you reach tile 5, attack again, and walk 1 tile at a time until you reach tile 4, step back between 4 and 5, and repeat from there. So you'd be attacking from tiles between 4 and 5, and then 2, and then 5. And this is what it'll look like when it's done correctly. And believe me, I know it sounds so confusing at first. And again, it's totally unnecessary when you're learning, but it'll eventually be extremely beneficial to save that extra bit of run energy when you want to start getting into no preps later. So definitely rewatch this part so you can see exactly what it looks like when it's done correctly. And guys, listen, I know this guide's gone on long enough. I appreciate you all checking it out, and especially if you made it this far. Everyone, please remember, if you have any issues or any questions learning this content, feel free to reach out to me in DM or comment down below. An invite to my Discord will be linked down in the description, as well as my Twitch, where I'm live just about every day, so feel free to stop by and say hi anytime. And I'm more than happy to go over some solo ohm mechanics like mage running, 4 to 1, etc. We could watch a run over together, or I'll even dolo with you in my free time off stream, so don't be scared to reach out. I do love teaching. And again, if you guys found any benefit in this guide, please smash the like button. Definitely consider subscribing. It would help out a ton, and you'll be notified of part 2 of the Solo Ohm guide when it comes out, going over the easiest and fastest ways to get into 4 to 1 cycle and maintain it, especially during errors. Thank you again for watching the Perfect G content.